My mother was standing in my grandmother's kitchen, holding a tape measure. She wasn't measuring for curtains. She was measuring my life, deciding how much of it belonged to her, and how much she could hand to my brother on a silver platter. But she didn't know I was watching from the hallway, and she didn't know what my grandmother had hidden in the floorboards before she died. But before I tell you how everything unraveled, like and subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me where you are watching from. My name is Rachel. I am 29 years old. I am a registered nurse at a hospital downtown. I work 12-hour shifts, sometimes back-to-back. My feet ache. My hands smell like sanitizer even after I scrub them raw. But I love my job because at the hospital, people say thank you. At the hospital, people look at me and see someone who matters. At home, with my family, I am invisible. I have a younger brother named Dylan. He is 25 years old. Dylan is the son. Everything in our family revolves around him. When he walks into a room, my mother lights up like a Christmas tree. When he tells a joke, my father laughs until he wheezes. When he fails, which is often, the whole family rallies to cushion his fall. I am the moon. I only exist to reflect his light. Nobody looks at the moon during the day. Nobody notices it hanging there, pale and quiet, doing its job, pulling the tides, keeping the oceans in check. But everyone applauds the sun for just showing up. Dylan has never held a job for longer than 4 months. He has been a personal trainer, a barista, a real estate assistant, a crypto investor, and a dog walker. Each career lasted just long enough for him to print business cards before he quit. My mother always had an excuse. He is finding himself, she would say. Not everyone peaks early like you, Rachel. You are the responsible one. There it was. Responsible. The word my mother used like a leash. Every time she called me responsible, she was really saying, you are the one I can use. I was 16 when I first understood that. My grandmother, my father's mother, was the only one who saw it. Nana Rose lived in a 2-story brick house on Maple Street. It had a garden in the back with roses and tomatoes and a fig tree that leaned against the fence. The house was small but solid. It had been in the family for 40 years. Nana Rose had paid off the mortgage herself, working as a seamstress, sewing wedding dresses and prom gowns until her fingers ached. I used to spend every weekend at Nana Rose's house. While Dylan was off getting into trouble and my parents were cleaning up after him, I would sit in her kitchen learning how to make pie crust from scratch. She would tell me stories about the old neighborhood while the oven warmed the whole house. One afternoon, when I was about 22, Nana Rose held my hand across the kitchen table. She looked at me with those sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. Rachel, she said, you are the strong one in this family, but strong does not mean you have to carry everyone. I know what your mother does. I see it. Promise me something. She squeezed my hand. Promise me you will never let them take what is yours. I promised her. I didn't understand what she meant at the time. I thought she was being dramatic. Old people say things like that. But Nana Rose was never dramatic. She was precise. She was a woman who measured everything twice before she cut. Nana Rose passed away when I was 26. Pancreatic cancer. It moved fast. 1 month she was pruning her roses. The next month she was in a hospital bed that I had set up in her living room. I was the one who took care of her. I drove across town every night after my shift to check her IV, adjust her medication, rub lotion on her dry skin. My mother visited twice. Both times she stayed for less than an hour. Both times she complained about the smell. Dylan didn't visit at all. On her last night, Nana Rose grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a woman who weighed 87 pounds. The house, she whispered. It is yours. I already talked to the lawyer. Everything is in your name. Don't let them touch it. Do you hear me? Don't let Martha touch it. Martha was my mother's name. Nana Rose had never trusted her. She died at 4:17 inches the morning. I was holding her hand. Nobody else was there. The reading of the will was a circus. My mother wore a black dress and fake tears. Dylan wore sunglasses indoors. When the lawyer read that the house on Maple Street was left entirely to me, my mother's face went through 5 stages of grief in about 3 seconds. She settled on anger. That is not fair, she said to the lawyer. Rachel is single. She doesn't need a whole house. Dylan is trying to get on his feet. He needs stability. The lawyer, a patient old man named Mr. Calloway, simply pointed to the document. Mrs. Davis, the will is clear. and legally binding. The property goes to Rachel. There is nothing to contest. My mother stared at me like I had stolen something from her. I hadn't stolen anything. I had earned it. I had earned it with every late night, every sponge bath, every bowl of soup I heated up at 2 in the morning. But my mother didn't see caregiving as currency. She only valued whatever served Dylan. I moved into Nana Rose's house a month later. It needed work. The pipes groaned in winter. The stairs creaked on the 3rd step. The wallpaper in the bathroom was peeling. But the bones were good. The roof was solid. The garden was still alive. I spent every weekend that first year restoring it. I refinished the hardwood floors myself, on my knees with a rented sander. I painted the walls a warm cream color. I replaced the old stove with a second-hand one I found online that actually worked. I planted new roses in the garden. I kept the fig tree. I turned Nana Rose's sewing room into a reading nook with a big armchair and a lamp that cast golden light across the walls. For the first time in my life, I had a place that felt like home. My mother hated it. Every time she visited, which was rare, she found something to criticize. "This neighborhood is going downhill," she would say, even though the houses around mine were well kept and the neighbors were kind. "You are wasting your time with this old place," she would say. "You should sell it and give Dylan his share, as if Nana Rose had accidentally left him out instead of deliberately choosing to protect me from them. For almost 3 years, I lived in peace. I worked. I came home. I cooked dinner in my kitchen. I read books in my reading nook. I watered my roses. I slept soundly in the bedroom where my grandmother had slept. It was quiet. It was good. I should have known it wouldn't last. It started with small comments. Dylan began showing up unannounced. He would knock on my door on a Saturday morning, looking around the house with a strange kind of hunger. "This place has good bones," he would say, running his hand along the banister. "You know, if you knocked out that wall between the living room and the dining room, it would be open concept. Way more modern. I didn't want open concept. I liked my walls. I liked the separation. I liked the quiet rooms that held their own conversations." Then my mother started calling more often. "How is the house, Rachel? Are the property taxes going up? Isn't it hard maintaining a whole house by yourself? Maybe you should think about getting some help. Maybe Dylan could move in for a while, just until he gets settled." I said no every time. And every time, the temperature in the conversation dropped a few degrees. Then something changed. Dylan got a girlfriend named Megan. Megan was an aspiring interior designer. She had a Pinterest board with 14,000 followers and an opinion about everything. The moment she saw my house, I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. "Oh my God," she gasped the first time Dylan brought her over. "This house has so much potential. The natural light, the original woodwork, this could be a showpiece." She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. I asked her to stop. She laughed like I was joking. 3 weeks later, my mother invited me to Sunday dinner. I didn't want to go. I never wanted to go. Sunday dinners at my parents' house were a performance. My mother would cook a meal that was supposed to demonstrate how loving she was. And then she would spend 3 hours reminding me of everything I owed her. But I went because my father had been having back pain, and I wanted to check on him. I was a nurse. I couldn't not check. I arrived early. I parked down the block because the driveway was full. Dylan's truck was there. So was Megan's little white car. I walked up to the house. The front door was slightly open because the latch had been broken for years and my father never fixed it. I stepped inside and heard them. They were in the dining room. My mother, Dylan, and Megan. They weren't waiting for me. They were planning without me. "So here is what I'm thinking," Megan was saying. Her voice was bright and excited, like she was pitching to a client. "We got the first floor entirely. Open concept, living and kitchen. We turned the upstairs sewing room into a content studio for my design channel. The garden gets a full makeover. We could even add a deck. It would double the value." My heart stopped. My body went cold from the scalp down. "I love it," my mother said. "Rachel doesn't appreciate that house anyway. She just sits there reading. She hasn't changed a thing since she moved in. She kept the old woman's fig tree, for God's sake." The old woman. She was talking about Nana Rose, her own mother-in-law who had died in that house. The old woman. "Dylan," my mother continued. "Here is the plan. I've been looking into it. The house is in Rachel's name, but she hasn't updated the property insurance or the homeowner's tax account. If we can get her to add you to the deed as co-owner, just temporarily, we can leverage that to get a renovation loan. Once the house is fixed up, we sell it. You and Megan get 70% because you did the work. Rachel gets 30% of my grandmother's house. The house Nana Rose had paid off with her own 2 hands. The house she had left to me and only me. They wanted to take it, gut it, erase Nana Rose from every wall, and then sell it off. Mom, what if Rachel says no? Dylan asked. He didn't sound worried. He sounded like he was asking about the weather. She won't, my mother said confidently. I'll tell her we're behind on the mortgage for this house. I'll tell her your father might need surgery and we can't afford it. She's a nurse. She can't stand seeing people in pain. She'll fold. She always folds. There it was, the strategy meeting. The blueprint for my destruction, laid out between the salt shaker and the dinner rolls. I stood in that hallway for what felt like an hour but was probably 30 seconds. My hands were shaking so badly, I shoved them into my coat pockets. The old Rachel would have walked in there crying. The old Rachel would have begged them to explain. The old Rachel would have believed their excuses when they told her she misunderstood. But I wasn't the old Rachel anymore. Nana Rose's voice echoed in my head. Don't let them touch it. I backed out of the house without making a sound. I got in my car. I drove straight home. I did not cry. I did not call anyone. I sat in my car in my own driveway and looked at my house. The porch light was on. The roses along the front were trimmed and blooming. The fig tree was visible through the fence, its broad leaves catching the last light. They wanted to rip out the fig tree. They wanted to tear down the walls. They wanted to erase every trace of the woman who loved me enough to leave me something. I got out of the car, walked inside, and locked the door. I engaged the deadbolt. Then I did something I should have done 3 years ago. I took the spare key from the hook by the door, the one my mother had insisted I give her for emergencies. I held it in my palm. It was warm from the sunlight that had been hitting it all afternoon. I drove to the hardware store. It was still open. I bought a brand new deadbolt, a brand new doorknob lock, and a chain lock. I bought all 3. I drove home. I watched 2 videos on my phone about how to install them. I changed every lock on the front door and the back door. It took me 2 hours. My hands were sore. I stripped 1 screw and had to start over. But by 10 o'clock that night, no one on this planet had a key to my house except me. I tested the new locks 3 times. I slept better that night than I had in months. The next morning, I called in a personal day at the hospital. My supervisor was surprised. Rachel, you never take days off. Is everything okay? I have some urgent personal business, I said. And it was the truth. I dressed carefully. I put on my good black coat, the one I bought myself after a brutal week of double shifts. I wasn't dressing for comfort. I was dressing for battle. My first stop was the county recorder's office. I walked up to the counter and asked to see the deed to 714 Maple Street. The clerk pulled it up. There it was. Owner, Rachel Marie Davis. Sole owner. No liens, no encumbrances. No co-owners. I asked for a certified copy. I held it in my hands and read my own name 3 times. My grandmother's gift. My shield. My second stop was a law office. My friend Priya worked there. She was a family law attorney with a spine made of titanium. I had helped her through a health scare 2 years ago, sitting with her through every chemo treatment. She told me once that if I ever needed anything at all, she would be there. I told her everything. I told her about the Sunday dinner conversation. I told her about the plan to trick me into adding Dylan to the deed. I told her about my mother's strategy to manipulate me with lies about money and surgery. Priya's face went dark. She set down her coffee. Rachel, she said slowly, what they are describing is fraud. Attempting to deceive you into modifying a legal document under false pretenses is textbook fraud. And if your mother tries to forge anything or impersonate you with the county, that is a felony. I don't want to put my mother in prison, I said. I know, Priya said, but you need protection. She drafted 2 documents. The first was a cease and desist letter addressed to my mother, my brother, and Megan. It stated in cold legal language that any attempt to alter, encumber, or claim ownership of the property at 714 Maple Street would result in immediate legal action, including criminal referral. The second was a formal trespass notice. It stated that if any of the named individuals entered the property without my express written consent, I would contact the police and press charges. I signed both. Priya sent them by certified mail that afternoon. My third stop was the electronics section of the big box store on Fifth Avenue. I bought 2 security cameras. One for the front porch, one for the back door. I didn't buy hidden ones. I wanted them visible. I wanted the red recording lights to stare at anyone who approached like unblinking eyes. I went home and installed them. I mounted the front camera right above the door, at eye level. I connected both to my phone. I tested them. The video was clear. The audio picked up everything: the birds, the traffic, the wind in the fig tree. If they came, I would see them. If they lied, I would have proof. I made myself lunch. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Nana Rose used to roll out pie dough, and I ate a sandwich in complete silence. The house was mine. The locks were new. The law was on my side. The cameras were watching. I was ready. It took them 4 days. The certified letters arrived on a Wednesday. I know this because my phone started ringing at 6:47 p.m. that evening. It was my mother. I didn't answer. She called again and again. 7 calls in 20 minutes. Then the text started. "Rachel, what is this? How dare you send a legal letter to your own mother? Call me right now." Then Dylan. "Yo, what the hell, Rachel? Megan wants to talk to you. You need to fix this." Then Megan, who somehow had my number. "Hi, Rachel. This is Megan. I think there has been a misunderstanding. We just wanted to help you with the house. Can we talk like adults?" I didn't respond to any of them. I blocked all 3 numbers. I put my phone on silent. I watered my roses. They showed up on Saturday. I knew they would. The cameras caught my mother's car pulling up at 11:15 inches the morning. She got out first, wearing her church outfit, the one she wore when she wanted to appear respectable. Dylan was behind her. Megan stayed in the car, which told me she was the smart one. My mother marched up the front steps. She tried the door. The knob didn't turn. She tried her old key. It didn't fit. I watched it all on my phone from the kitchen table. I could hear her through the camera's microphone. "She changed the locks," my mother said to Dylan. She sounded stunned, as if the concept of a daughter protecting herself was alien to her. She rang the doorbell. She knocked. She pounded. She called my name. "Rachel, Rachel, open this door right now. We need to talk. This is family business. You cannot lock me out of my family's house. My family's house. Not my house. Not Nana Rose's house. My family's house." As if she had ever spent a single night refinishing the floors. As if she had ever planted a single rose. I walked to the front door. I did not open it. I spoke through it. "Go home, Mom. Rachel, open this door." "No. You received the letter. You know the terms. You are not welcome here without my permission." I heard Dylan's voice. "Come on, Rachel. Don't be like this. Mom is just worried about you. We all are. You are living in this big house alone. It's not healthy." "I am perfectly healthy," I said. "I am a nurse. I know what healthy looks like." My mother's voice dropped to that low, dangerous register I knew so well. "If you don't open this door, Rachel, I am calling your father. And he is going to come here and talk sense into you." "Dad can call me if he wants," I said. "But this door stays locked." There was silence. Then I heard my mother try the back door. She walked around the side of the house, past the garden, to the back porch. I watched her on the second camera. She tried the back door. New lock. Didn't budge. She came back to the front. Her face on the camera was red and furious. "You changed the back locks too?" she yelled. "I changed every lock in this house," I said through the door. "And those cameras you see are recording everything right now. Audio and video. If you do not leave in the next 5 minutes, I am calling the police for trespassing." "You would call the police on your own mother?" She sounded genuinely shocked. "You would steal your own daughter's house," I said. "So yes." Another silence. I heard Megan's voice from the car. "Dylan, let's just go. This isn't worth it." My mother started crying. They were loud, theatrical sobs. The kind she used to get me to pay for things or forgive things or surrender things. "After everything I did for you," she wailed. "After all the sacrifices. I gave up my youth for you kids. And this is how you repay me? By shutting me out? By treating me like a criminal?" The old Rachel would have crumbled. The old Rachel would have opened the door, hugged her mother, apologized through her own tears, and agreed to whatever terms would make the crying stop. But I could still hear Nana Rose's voice. "Don't let them touch it. You need to leave, Mom." I said it calmly. I said it clearly. Dylan stepped up. His voice had a new edge to it, a threatening tone I had never heard before. Rachel, this is going to get ugly if you don't cooperate. That house is worth over $300,000. You think you can just keep it all to yourself? We are family. Family shares. Nana Rose left it to me, I said. Not to the family, to me. Because I was the one who took care of her. Where were you when she was dying, Dylan? Where were you when I was changing her sheets at 3 a.m? He didn't answer. I heard my mother sniffle one last time. Then her voice turned to ice. Fine, she said. Keep your dead grandmother's house. But you are dead to us, Rachel. Do you understand? You have no family. You have no one. You are going to die alone in this house just like she did. She didn't die alone, I said quietly. I was there. My mother didn't respond to that. I heard her heels click down the porch steps. I heard the car doors slam. I heard the engine start. I watched on the camera as the car pulled away from the curb and disappeared down Maple Street. I stood in the hallway. The house was silent. The afternoon light came through the windows and fell across the hardwood floor in long golden rectangles. I looked at the wall where Nana Rose's clock still ticked. It was the only sound in the house. Tick, tick, tick. Steady and faithful. My legs were shaking. I walked to the kitchen and sat down. I poured a glass of water and drank it slowly. The adrenaline was draining out of me, leaving me feeling hollow and light, like a bell that had just been struck. I checked my phone. The camera had recorded everything. 32 minutes of footage. My mother's threats. Dylan's intimidation. Their admission that they wanted the house for its value, not for family. If they ever tried anything legal, I had everything I needed. I sat at the table for a long time. The sun moved across the kitchen. Shadows shifted. The fig tree outside the window rustled in the wind. I thought about Nana Rose. I thought about the night she died, how she had looked at me in the dark and said, "You are the strong one." I had always thought that was a burden. But sitting here in her house, in my house, I realized it was a gift. She hadn't called me strong because she wanted me to carry others. She called me strong because she knew I could carry myself. The next few weeks were strange and beautiful. Without the constant drain of my family's demands, my life expanded. I had more energy. I slept deeper. I started a small vegetable garden in the backyard next to the roses. I enrolled in a continuing education course for nurse practitioners. I had wanted to do it for years but never had the money because there was always a crisis. Always someone who needed bailing out. Always a Dylan-shaped emergency that emptied my savings. My father called once, about 3 weeks after the confrontation. I almost didn't answer. But he was my father, and despite everything, he had never been the one scheming. He was just weak. He was the man who sat at the table and said nothing while his wife drew up battle plans. "Rachel," he said. His voice was tired. "Your mother is very upset." "I know, Dad. She wants you to apologize." "I am not going to do that." He sighed. I figured. He paused. "Listen, your Nana left you that house for a reason. I know that. I knew my mother better than Martha did. She was a tough woman, but she was fair. She saw something in you." "Then why didn't you say something?" I asked. "Why didn't you stop Mom from planning to take it?" He was quiet for a long time. "Because I'm a coward," he said finally. "I've always been a coward. I'm sorry, Rachel." It was the most honest thing my father had ever said to me. I didn't forgive him. Not yet. But I hurt him. "Thanks for saying that, Dad. But I need space. I need a lot of space." "I understand," he said, and he hung up. A month after that, I was sitting in my reading nook on a rainy evening. The lamp cast its golden light. A book was open on my lap. The house was warm. I had made soup that afternoon, and the smell of garlic and rosemary still hung in the air. I looked around the room. I looked at the chair that Nana Rose had reupholstered herself. I looked at the shelf where I kept her old sewing patterns in a tin box. I looked out the window at the garden where the roses were sleeping for winter, waiting to bloom again. My mother had said I would die alone in this house. She meant it as a curse. But sitting there, with the rain on the roof and the soup on the stove and a good book in my hands, it didn't feel like a curse. It felt like a blessing. I wasn't alone. I was with myself. And for the first time in 29 years, that was more than enough. I closed my book. I walked to the kitchen. I ladled soup into a bowl, Nana Rose's blue ceramic bowl, the one with the tiny chip on the rim that she never wanted to throw away. I sat down at the table. I said a quiet thank you to the empty room, and then I ate. Just for one. And it was perfect.